hear the word voodoo, what comes to mind? For most people, it's the image Hollywood planted decades ago. Dolls pierced with needles, shadowy figures in smoke-filled rooms, twisted magic used for revenge. It's horror movies set in New Orleans, eerie music and villains with painted faces invoking dark spirits. But that image, that entire idea, is a fiction. It's a lie built on ignorance, fear, and centuries of colonial propaganda. What the world calls voodoo is in fact Vodun, one of the most profound and complex spiritual systems ever developed. A sacred lineage of wisdom rooted in West Africa, born from harmony with nature, reverence for ancestors, and direct connection with the divine. The same goes for the Orishas, divine forces of the Yoruba people of Nigeria. To many outside the culture, these powerful spirits are seen as mythical or foreign, sometimes even dangerous. But to those who carry the traditions, the Orishas are not characters or creatures. They are cosmic energies, living principles of the universe. Love, war, water, justice, healing, each with stories that teach and guide. These are not tools of manipulation. They are systems of alignment, designed to keep humanity in rhythm with the world around it. The distortion of Vodu and Orisha beliefs didn't happen by accident. It was deliberate. European colonizers demonized these faiths to justify the brutal erasure of African culture during slavery. Christian missionaries labeled them demonic, associating African divinity with evil. And later, Hollywood turned that fear into entertainment, rewriting sacred rituals into curses and replacing divine intelligence with superstition. Over time, what was once a map for living became a monster story. What was once holy became horror. But here's the truth: Vodun and Orisha are not black magic. They are not curses. They are not evil. They are living, breathing spiritual systems that speak to the deepest parts of the human soul. They are about balance, about listening, about honoring the spirits that walk with us and the ancestors who still watch over us. They are about understanding the forces that govern life, not through domination, but through harmony. This isn't a horror story. This is a homecoming. And it's time we remembered the real story. To understand Vodun and Orisha spirituality, we must first return to their sacred lands. Not Hollywood soundstages or colonial imaginations, but the living soil of Benin, Togo, and Nigeria. It is here, long before European ships ever touched African shores, that complex spiritual worlds were born. These were not primitive societies fumbling through nature worship. They were highly organized communities with systems of governance, education, art, medicine, and spiritual knowledge passed down through generations. Spirituality wasn't just a part of life, it was life. Every element, every tree, every river held meaning. The divine wasn't somewhere above, it was everywhere around. In southern Benin and Togo, the tradition known as Vodun or Voodoo emerged as a deeply rooted cosmology. The word Vodun means spirit or deity in the Fon and Yu languages. It's not a singular religion, but a network of beliefs, rituals, and relationships with hundreds of divine spirits who govern different forces of nature and aspects of human life. Vodun teaches that all things, the wind, the fire, the rain, the ancestors, are alive with spirit. These spirits are not merely worshipped from a distance. They are engaged through rituals, songs, offerings, and sacred rhythms. They are teachers, protectors, and guides. At the heart of Vodun is the belief in balance between the visible and invisible worlds, the living and the dead, the physical and the spiritual. Just eastward in southwestern Nigeria, the Yoruba people developed a parallel but distinct spiritual system centered around the worship of Orishas. divine forces that act as intermediaries between humans and Olodumare, the supreme creator. In Yoruba cosmology, Olodumare is the source of all existence, too vast and unknowable for direct worship. The Orishas are the expressions of Olodumare's power, each one governing a specific domain of life and nature: thunder, rivers, iron, motherhood, love, justice. The Yoruba believe that every human is born with a divine purpose and is spiritually connected to a particular Orisha who helps guide that person's destiny. Both Vodun and Orisha traditions are structured around cosmic order. These are not random collections of gods, but integrated systems with precise hierarchies and relationships. There are rituals to honor each spirit, rules for when and how they should be called, and deep moral codes built into the practice. This divine structure mirrors the physical one. Just as societies have elders and leaders, the spiritual world has ranks and responsibilities. Priests and priestesses undergo years of training to understand the divine language. Through drumming, divination, dance, and orature, nothing is improvised. Everything has purpose. An essential component of both traditions is the belief in Ace, Yoruba, or Aiscxa Fon, the spiritual power that exists in all things. Ace is the force that allows prayers to manifest, the energy that empowers the Orishas, the breath that animates the cosmos. To be in alignment with this power is to live well, to act ethically, and to maintain harmony between the self, the community, the ancestors, and the divine. These traditions were not isolated. They spread through trade, intermarriage, pilgrimage, and migration across West Africa. Even today, rituals performed in Nigeria may mirror those in Benin or Togo, and yet each community holds its own unique expressions of the sacred. What unites them is not dogma, but relationship between humans and the spirits, between earth and sky, between past and present. Vodun and Orisha spirituality did not arise from fear or superstition. They were born from observation, experience, and reverence for the world as a living spiritual organism. Long before any Western religion reached Africa, these systems had already answered the biggest questions of existence. Who are we? Why are we here? How do we live in right relationship with the universe? The answers were already written, not in stone or scripture, but in the rhythm of the drum, the smoke of the offering, the whisper of the ancestors, and the dance of the living spirit. To truly grasp the depth of Vodun and Orisha traditions, you must first unlearn the way most religions are framed. In these African spiritual systems, gods are not people. They are not human-shaped entities sitting on heavenly thrones or casting judgment from afar. Instead, they are forces, intelligences of nature, manifestations of cosmic energy that exist within and around us. In Vodun and Orisha cosmology, the divine is not somewhere else. It is the very structure of reality itself. These gods, or rather divinities, are not supernatural. They are hypernatural, deeply embedded in the rivers that flow, the thunder that roars, the iron that strikes, and the blood that pulses through our veins. At the center of Yoruba spirituality is Olodumare, the supreme being. Olodumare is not gendered, not bound by human limitations, and not directly involved in day-to-day human affairs. Olodumare is pure source, the origin of all existence, the eternal essence that breathes life into everything. In Yoruba thought, Olodumare is so vast and transcendent that humans cannot worship them directly. Instead, humans engage with Orishas, who are facets of Olodumare's power, divine intermediaries that make the unknowable knowable. Each Orisha governs a specific domain and represents a distinct aspect of universal energy: love, war, wisdom, healing, storms, rivers, fire, fertility, destiny. Similarly, in the Vodun tradition of Benin and Togo, the universe is governed by the dual divinity Mau Lisa, a male-female cosmic pair. Mau represents the moon, peace, femininity, and compassion, while Lisa represents the sun, strength, masculinity, and justice. Together they form the unity of all things, balance between opposites, night and day, softness and force. Mau Lisa delegates authority to a vast array of spirits called Vodun, each of whom operates within a specific field of creation. These spirits are like currents in a divine river, separate yet inseparable from the source. They are not worshipped as gods, but engaged as partners in maintaining the sacred balance between earth and spirit. This is where the divine logic of Vodun and Orisha systems reveals its brilliance. These aren't random pantheons or mythological leftovers from an older time. These are living blueprints for how energy moves through the world. The Orisha Ogun, for example, governs iron, war, and technology. But Ogun is not just a god of war in the Western sense. He is the spirit within every blade, every machine, every forge. To honor Ogun is to acknowledge the sacred in the tools we use, the dangers we face, and the breakthroughs we build. The Legba Oshun governs fresh water, sensuality, fertility, and love. She is not simply a goddess of beauty, but the spirit present in flowing rivers, sweet honey, tender emotion, and the delicate balance of life's sweetness and sorrow. Each of these spirits carries Ace, divine energy that flows through rituals, offerings, prayer, and song. Ace is not abstract. It is felt. It is activated. It moves through the rhythm of the drum, the words of the diviner, the sweat of the dancer, the silence of the shrine. It is the mechanism through which the invisible becomes visible. When a priest or devotee calls on a Vodun spirit or an Orisha, they are not begging for favor. They are entering into alignment with a force of the universe. Ritual, then, is not superstition. It is science in spiritual form, a method of tuning the soul to the correct frequency of divine truth. The divine order in these traditions is not authoritarian. It is reciprocal. The spirits require attention, but they also offer guidance. There are no commandments carved in stone. Instead, there are relationships, dynamic, living, and personal. The devotee does not follow blind dogma. They learn through experience, divination, and ritual how to walk in harmony with the spirit world, how to listen to warnings, how to recognize blessings. In this worldview, the divine is not a dictator. It is a current, flowing through all things, always available, always speaking. The question is not whether the gods are real. The question is, are we listening? To understand Vodun and Orisha spirituality, one must step into the presence of the spirits themselves, not as mythical characters, but as living forces that shape the world, walk beside us and respond to our needs, our offerings, our songs. These are not distant deities confined to heavens or scriptures. They are near. They are in the river's flow, the metals shine, the thunder's roar, and the body's rhythm. Each spirit, whether from Vodun or Orisha tradition, has its own domain, temperament, preferences, colors, and stories, and each offers a path for humans to understand themselves and the universe more clearly. In the Vodun tradition of Benin and Togo, one of the most important spirits is Legba. He is the opener of doors, the keeper of crossroads, the communicator between the human and the divine. Before any ritual can begin, Legba must be called upon, not just out of respect, but necessity. Without Legba, messages cannot pass between worlds. He is a trickster, often appearing as an old man or a child, a symbol of paradox and possibility. He reminds us that the spirit world is not linear or logical by human standards. It moves in riddles, laughter, and turns of fate. Yet Legba is not to be feared. He is generous when honored and known for his wit, flexibility, and power to remove obstacles from the spiritual path. Another powerful Vodun deity is Sakpata, the spirit of the earth and disease. Often associated with smallpox and healing, Sakpata embodies both affliction and cure. He is a spirit of both consequence and restoration. His shrines are guarded with care, his priests trained to handle his energy with exactitude. In times of illness, drought, or plague, Sakpata is invoked not as a curse-bringer, but as a force that demands balance. He teaches that what harms can also heal, that suffering and salvation often come through the same hands. He is respected, feared, and deeply honored. Then there is the mesmerizing figure of Mami Wata, the water spirit who flows through both Vodun and diasporic traditions. Often appearing as a beautiful woman with long hair and a serpentine presence, Mami Wata is both alluring and mysterious. She governs rivers, oceans, wealth, femininity, and transformation. Some say she can bring blessings beyond imagination, riches, beauty, spiritual power. Others warn of her jealousy, her unpredictability, her deep emotional tides. Mami Wata is worshipped with mirrors, perfume, music, and dancing, sensual offerings that speak to her fluid nature. She is the ocean in all of us, vast, powerful, nurturing, and unknowable. In the Yoruba Orisha tradition of Nigeria, a similar divine structure exists, though with different names, rhythms, and stories. Shango, the Orisha of thunder, lightning, and justice, is one of the most celebrated. He is the embodiment of masculine power, charisma, and raw divine energy. With his double-headed axe and fiery presence, Shango governs storms, both in the sky and in the soul. He is the patron of kings, dancers, and warriors. When thunder cracks across the sky, it is said that Shango is speaking, but his power is not reckless. Shango is also a judge, a divine force of balance who punishes injustice and rewards courage. His energy is invoked by drummers and devotees, who dance in a storm of fire and rhythm. In contrast, Oshun flows like honey, the Orisha of rivers, love, fertility, beauty, and compassion. She is the goddess of sweetness, but also of depth. Oshun is often depicted as playful and seductive, but beneath her surface lies profound emotional intelligence. She brings life to barren fields and joy to aching hearts. She is the one who soothed Ogun when he raged. She is the one who brought laughter to a grieving world. To worship Oshun is to recognize the power of softness, seduction, and water. Her devotees offer honey, sunflowers, mirrors, and music. Her riverbanks are sacred, places where prayers are whispered and tears are answered. And then there is Ogun, the Orisha of iron, technology, war, and labor. Ogun is the blade that clears the path, the fire that forges tools, the sweat on the brow of those who build. He is the patron of blacksmiths, soldiers, surgeons, and all who work with metal. He is both destroyer and protector. When injustice reigns, Ogun rises with his machete. But when a road must be cleared, it is Ogun who leads the way. He represents transformation through struggle, strength through precision. His altars are adorned with iron, rum, blood, and the raw elements of the earth. Each of these spirits, whether in Vodun or Orisha cosmology, is not just a being but a path. They offer ways of living, ways of becoming. Devotees align themselves with the spirit whose energy most mirrors their destiny, their nature, or their calling. Rituals, prayers, and dances are not random performances. They are acts of communion, alignment, and transformation. To walk with a spirit is to enter into a lifelong relationship based on respect, offering discipline, and love. These spirits are not fictional or symbolic. They are alive. They move in dreams, speak in symbols, and act through nature. For millions around the world, they are as real as the wind, the fire, the river, the steel. And in their presence, the human soul finds power, purpose, and a way to move through the world with meaning. In Vodun and Orisha spirituality, the connection between the living and the dead is not a severed line. It is a continuum, a sacred bridge that pulses with memory, presence, and power. Ancestors are not gone. They are elevated. They live on, not in the past, but in the air, in the soil, in the blood, and in the altar fire. To be human is to walk in the footsteps of those who came before you, and to honor them is not merely tradition. It is obligation, protection, and love. Ancestors in these traditions are not worshipped like gods. They are venerated, consulted, and offered respect because they remain part of the family, part of the spirit network that sustains life. Altars are built in homes, shrines, and temples, quiet corners where photos, heirlooms, drinks, food, candles, or kola nuts are offered in remembrance. These sacred spaces are not superstition. They are communication hubs, emotional sanctuaries. Through prayer and offering, people speak to those who understand them best, their own lineage. Ancestral altars are places of healing and wisdom, and when problems arise, it is common for priests or family elders to ask, "Have you spoken to your ancestors?" Because spiritual blockage often comes from neglecting the relationships that still live beyond death. Ritual is the language of these relationships. Whether in Vodun or Yoruba tradition, rituals are not empty performance. They are deeply coded acts of balance. A libation poured to the earth is a message. A drumbeat is a call. A dance is an invocation. Rituals mark life's passages, birth, puberty, marriage, death, and also times of harvest, misfortune, or celebration. They cleanse, they bless, they bind communities together in a shared rhythm. In many villages, rituals are performed at dawn or dusk, times when the veil between worlds is thin. Offerings are made not to bribe spirits, but to maintain spiritual equity. You give, you receive, you remember, but not everyone can conduct these rituals. That is the sacred role of the priesthood. Men and women who have undergone years of spiritual training and initiation to serve as mediators between the seen and unseen. In Vodun, they are bokonon, diviners, or hunon, hunsi, priests and devotees. In Yoruba tradition, they are babalawo, father of secrets, or iyanafa, female diviner. These spiritual leaders do not guess or improvise. They are trained in complex systems of symbols, chants, medicines, and cosmology. They know which herbs heal and which paths lead to which spirits. They guide the community not with dogma, but with clarity, humility, and ritual precision. One of their most important tools is divination, the act of seeking insight from the spirit world. Among the Yoruba, the system known as Ifa is central. It involves a sacred chain or palm nuts used to reveal patterns from the 256 sacred otis. Spiritual codes, each with stories, proverbs, and guidance. The Babalawo interprets these signs, offering not fortune-telling, but profound spiritual diagnosis. Divination is not about predicting the future. It is about aligning the present. It tells you what energies are in play, what rituals may be needed, and how to restore balance. Initiation, in both Vodun and Orisha systems, is a sacred process of rebirth. It is not taken lightly. It marks the moment when a person becomes fully aligned with their spiritual destiny. and accepts the responsibility of walking a path in service to the divine. Initiation may involve ritual baths, fasting, seclusion, teachings, and spirit possession, not as drama, but as sacred encounter. To be initiated is to step into a contract with the spirit world. It is to be trusted by the ancestors and the gods to carry their work into the world. These practices, ancestral veneration, ritual, priesthood, and initiation, are not relics of a lost past. They are alive, dynamic, and deeply rooted in systems of care, knowledge, and ethical responsibility. They teach that the world is not just a physical place. It is a sacred one, layered with meaning, memory, and spirit. And for those who walk these paths, life is not a question to be solved. It is a relationship to be honored. To trace how Vodun became Voodoo, we must journey not only across oceans, but through centuries of distortion, survival, and reinvention. What began in the sacred groves and shrines of West Africa, an intricate system of divine balance and ancestral honor, was ripped from its homeland during the brutal era of the transatlantic slave trade. Enslaved Africans from what is now Benin, Togo, and Nigeria were taken to the Americas, especially to the Caribbean island of Hispaniola, where their spirituality did not disappear. It adapted, it evolved, it resisted, and in Haiti, it transformed into what we now call Vodu, a faith forged not in temples but in the fires of survival. In Haiti, enslaved Africans from multiple ethnic groups, Fon, Yu, Yoruba, Congo, were forced to practice Catholicism, but they brought their spirits with them. To preserve their spiritual traditions under the eyes of Catholic slave masters, they used syncretism, blending their own deities with Catholic saints. Thus, Legba became Saint Peter, guardian of the gates. Ezili Freda, the spirit of love and beauty, was mirrored in Our Lady of Sorrows. This wasn't a betrayal of the original gods. It was camouflage. It was protection. It was brilliance under duress. Haitian Vodou preserved the structure and cosmology of West African Vodun, but added new elements, language, and symbols born of pain, revolution, and renewal. The Haitian Vodou ceremony of Bois Caiman in 1791, where enslaved people invoked the spirits and vowed to fight for their freedom, became the spiritual ignition of the only successful slave revolt in history, the Haitian Revolution. From the ashes of slavery, Haiti became the first Black republic, and Vodou stood at its heart as both religion and resistance. This spiritual power, seen through colonial eyes, became dangerous. It terrified slave owners, it enraged colonial powers, and so began the campaign to demonize it. European colonists, missionaries, and later American occupiers vilified Vodou, portraying it as devil worship, cannibalism, and mindless superstition. These lies bled into Hollywood, which saw in Voodoo a ready-made monster. In 1932, the film White Zombie introduced zombies to American screens, empty, lifeless bodies controlled by a Vodou priest. From there, the mythology spiraled. Voodoo dolls, which have nothing to do with traditional Vodun, became icons of fear. Films like The Serpent and the Rainbow twisted ritual possession into horror. In pop culture, voodoo became a genre, a punchline, a Halloween costume. And with each portrayal, the truth sank deeper beneath layers of stereotype. But here's the truth. Vodun and Haitian Vodou are not evil. They are not sorcery or chaos. They are deeply structured spiritual systems built on harmony, discipline, and reverence. They are systems of healing and justice, of music and memory. In Haitian Vodou, El Dalwu spirits are not devils. They are forces of nature, much like the Orishas and Vodun spirits of West Africa. They have families, histories, and distinct personalities. Rituals are performed with precision. Songs, drumming, sacred dance, and offerings all carried out in a sacred circle where humans and spirits meet, speak, and transform each other. The word voodoo, popularized by outsiders, became shorthand for something feared, foreign, and forbidden. But in its original form, Vodun means spirit. It is a word of life, not death. In reclaiming the truth of Vodun and Vodu, we also reclaim centuries of erased culture, buried power, and denied spirituality. The difference between Vodun and Voodoo is not just about spelling. It is about dignity. It is about survival. It is about remembering that what was once demonized was, in fact, divine. The next time someone mutters voodoo with a smirk or fear in their eyes, remember, what they fear is not magic, it's memory. It's a truth too powerful to be forgotten, too sacred to be shown on screen without distortion. To study Voodoo and Orisha is to return to something that was never truly gone, only buried. Beneath the lies, beneath the horror films, beneath the colonial distortions and missionary erasures, a sacred system still beats with life. It's a system not of fear, but of beauty, not of superstition, but of order. It's a spiritual architecture where gods are not distant, but near, where ancestors are not dead, but watching, where the universe is not silent, but singing. If only we learn to listen again. The beauty of Vodu and Orisha spirituality lies in its profound logic. Every spirit has its domain, its purpose. Every ritual has a rhythm, a reason. There is no randomness. There is precision, structure, and a deep emotional intelligence. These are not chaotic belief systems. They are ancient technologies of alignment between the body and the cosmos, the self and the divine, the past and the future. They teach reciprocity, respect, patience, and power. They ask not for blind faith, but for relationship. They are not simply about worship. They are about walking with the spirits, in trust and in truth. What the world has misunderstood for centuries is not just a religion, but a worldview, a way of seeing the sacred in the soil, the stream, the stars, a way of understanding that life is layered, complex, spiritual at every turn, that we are never alone, that nothing, not pain, not joy, not death, exists outside the circle of divine energy. To reclaim these traditions is not only an act of resistance, it is an act of remembrance. It is to remember who we were, who we are, and what was stolen but never destroyed. For the descendants of those whose ancestors kept these fires alive in secret, this is a call home. For those new to these stories, it is a call to listen, to unlearn, to witness without judgment. The spirits are still here. The rhythm is still playing. The wisdom never stopped speaking. If this journey opened your eyes, touched your spirit, or helped you see the sacred with new clarity, subscribe, like, and share this video, because the truth deserves to be seen and the roots are ready to rise.